Hey, what's up, Toby? We made it another week.
Hey, happy Friday.
I know we made it. All right. So we're just going to go right into it today.
Let's
So I
do
have a
it.
question.
Okay.
How many people need to be in a room before there's a 50% chance, a coin flip,
Okay.
that two of them share a birthday?
30 days in a month, 12 months in a year. That gets to be a really big number. So that's clearly wrong. Otherwise,
Yeah.
this wouldn't be a trick question, right? You see how I'm
You're like,
trying to pull it apart?
oh,
I mean, I think about it for myself. I so rarely encounter people that have my own that share a birthday
sure.
with me that I'm inclined to think the number has to be, 30-ish, maybe even 45 before I arrive at a matching. But I have a hunch you're going to tell me I'm wrong. I'm probably coming at this question
You're
wrong.
totally wrong, Toby. I wouldn't have asked the question if you would have got it right. No,
How many?
the answer is 23.
23. And is that for me to find somebody in the room with a matching birthday, or there's a 50% chance that I will share a birthday?
50% chance that two people in the room will share the same birthday.
Boy, how narcissistic is that of me that I'm imagining that I would be one of the two, right?
I believe you get to an over a 90% chance at about 40 people
okay.
or something like that. But the number's smaller, and and the reason we're talking about this,
Yeah.
this is not the birthday podcast. This is process that podcast.
Oh,
But it was my birthday recently last month. Anyway,
it was. Happy belated birthday, by the way.
it comes down to the challenge of the interdependencies and the impact of those number of people. So like, what's funny is like, we think intuitively, we think that if there is to be a 50% match, that this number is going to be higher. It actually ends up being smaller just because of raw statistics. Because when you walk into the room, that one person doesn't match with, like when one person walks into the room, they match with that one person. Then when two people walk into the room, they match with two people. And when the third person
potentially,
they potentially match. And so basically it creates this thing. And I think we have the reverse problem oftentimes in business, which is pull in not the appropriate amount of people. Because of that, one person comes in, two people, it's two, interaction between two, three, then you've got three links, four, everybody's linking with each other. And I think that is definitely an area that can have process step.
Well, let me step back for a second. So
sure.
This birthday paradox that the number is smaller than we expect to be able to find a match between two items. This feels like it would hold true when we're doing product market fit.
Yep.
And so if I have a new solution versus I have 5 solutions taking to market, and how many am I trying to match them against different customer segments or use cases, the more numbers I have, it probably isn't the full, the full compounded number, right?
Yeah.
The 25 to the nth or whatever the calculation is. My high school math teachers would slap me because I'm sure that's where we first encountered that. But it will be a much smaller number. But I think what you're touching on is that we often follow that same line of logic where more is better, when in fact, when we're building teams or we're trying to arrive consensus rather than matching, consensus is, you're suggesting maybe even a smaller number is better. Yeah. Why do you think that is? I mean, I understand, I'm intuitively, I get there. But I love that you think about these things usually before we jump on a call on a Friday. So unpack it.
I think it's because we need community. We're territorial. So like the bigger something is, the more people we pull in. Which, I think, and I've also been noticing just in my meetings, before COVID, it was 2 or 3 of us in a room. Imagine that. Talking face to face with, reading those latent verbal cues of like, hey, you dumbass, that was something stupid, which you can't say out loud. Otherwise you go and talk to HR.
Yeah.
But now I'm just seeing more and more just the larger number of people in meetings.
because it's so much easier just to add somebody to a Zoom or a Teams meeting versus coordinating their logistics of where they're physically at. Is that why you think
I
it's
don't
happening?
know.
That would be, I guess I'm expressing
No,
an
I think
intuitive
that's
assumption, but
it's a really good call out. Like, it's just easy to like just interrupt someone's day. Like
Yeah.
it's funny that you say that. Like, someone was talking about texting
yeah,
being what a telephone call was historically, meaning like, when we grew up, the telephones were on the wall. Imagine that was a thing.
indeed.
The big old kids will never understand the rotary phone, where it's like,
No,
gosh dang it, I don't want to have dial a 9 because it just takes forever.
we
But
can't be
anyway,
friends. You have too many nines in your phone
yeah,
number.
we digress.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that we basically have injected our lives with distraction
Yeah.
and pulling people into something has almost become a bad habit of bad process based on convenience.
Yeah. Well, I do know the best way to kill an otherwise healthy initiative is to basically send it into that endless cycle with let's add one more person and we have one more stakeholder and now we have to bring them up to speed and everybody's opinions are equal. I feel like process by committee, specifically design by committee, is a certainty to fail.
Oh yeah.
Right. And so it's interesting that you raise that question, because I'm hearing you say too that even in a physical meeting, somebody will step out and say, hey, Bob, can you join us in the conference room? When Bob might not have traditionally been necessary to arrive at a decision or move forward in the past. That's really interesting. Do you think that people are less confident, or that the complexity has increased and therefore we need additional experts?
I wonder if it has to do with just a social disconnection that we got.
Yeah, that hungry for more humans in our little space.
And we replaced it with people with screens. Because it was easy. And then we just build, and I don't know, I wish I had grand solutions on how to solve this, but I just think sometimes that less is more, especially when it comes to process.
Yeah. Well, I know when I first started doing process engineering work, this was old school. The prevailing wisdom was hammer and champy. So this was, new and emerging insights about how to redesign processes and make them more effective in the early 90s. And they were building it on this concept of what is a skunkworks team? How do we second a small team? Let's remove all the other distractions so that they can stay solely focused on the project and the effort. And at the time, the thought was, gosh, is 5 people too many? Is 6 people too many? But the goal was to be really intentional about making sure you have the right people in the room. And a lot of the logic was the byproduct of fewer channels of communication, fewer conflicting opinions.
Sure.
You didn't have the same overlap of expertise. And so you were taking an expert at their word. But in the early 90s, the internet was still like, still being designed in Netscape.
It was at DARPA
browser. Yeah. You, me, a couple professors and a bunch of military guys. No, and it was all pre-AI, where we could have a confident and often wrong opinion injected almost immediately. Right. And so it is hard. I mean, maybe the question I would ask is like, in today's world, how do we figure out who is the expert voice to help guide decisions? If socially we want more people in the room, maybe there's a role for them. Maybe we want them to be present to it and witness the conversation.
Sure.
But nobody ever says, hey, Toby, can you come join us and just shut up? You don't have an opinion in this, but we want you to hear it live. And maybe and at least for me, that's probably the right answer, is like, could you try to shut up? Can we mute you and just have you listen?
That should be our next podcast. I'll just talk. I tried that one time this year. It was awful. It was no fun.
Maybe we'll do that. I'll join you, but I won't say anything. And everybody else, is that just Chris by himself?
Yeah.
You can edit me out of the, I don't know. I mean, thinking back about some of the recent decisions, some of the choices that have been made that were effective, was there a certain pattern that you saw emerging? Because I think what we're talking about is arriving at healthy decisions that don't create all this debt to be serviced.
Yeah, I think a lot of it, like I've always been super successful when I have a small team,
Yeah.
and it's like, this is where we're headed. This is what we're doing. We have choice A, choice B.
Yeah.
It's the closer you can get to the people doing the work,
Yeah.
I think the more efficient you can be, as long as you're aligned. And maybe that's the problem. The more people you have, the more opinions you have, right?
Yeah.
You get to 23 people in a room, you've got two strong voices that agree that might not be aligned, and you're heading to crazy town.
Yeah. Well, in a large group too, you're going to have things like the formal and informal hierarchy and the political powers that teams exercise, things we don't always talk about. Hey, this point of alignment too, though, makes me think, I was jokingly saying, Toby, you're invited, but you don't get to talk. I do think there's probably a place to say, we're going to be having a conversation, and these are the only people that have a voting say in this. And I don't think we are as intentional about how we structure our meetings to let people know what role we're inviting them to fulfill.
Or even what the purpose of the meeting is.
Yeah.
Like, there's no reason why you can't have meetings that are all about building camaraderie.
Absolutely.
Whether it's remote or whether it's going to lunch or whatever.
Yeah.
Like,
that's just good for the soul.
But and then there's other ones where it's like, look, this is a decision-making meeting, or this is a research meeting. But like, oftentimes it's like, we're just all here pretending like we know what we're doing, but we don't really know, and it's not clear.
Chris, I think that's super interesting, because what you're suggesting could be a very simple solution, and it begins with whoever's convening.
Yeah.
And if you don't have an agenda, at least you should have a purpose so that people know why they're being asked to forego an hour. You and I have a friend who's recently taken on a new job. He's about 18 months in, and he said, I'm in no less than 6 hours of meetings a day. 6 hours of meetings, not all of which are that he's convening.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so he just said, I don't know when I'm supposed to get anything done.
Well, and I think that's ultimately the problem, right? Like we tried to get everybody in the room, and I don't know if it's because we don't want to be offended or we don't know. Like, we're trying to get this group think that actually could be helpful because we don't know where we're headed.
Right.
But it's almost like if you're not aligned, it's almost like the next best thing is to pull people in. But that isn't necessarily the right move, though.
Yeah. And
I don't know why we do that. Like, I'm thinking back, in 1,000 years ago, why would we have done that? Right. And maybe, if we're out on the plains in the savannah in Africa, you and I, just hanging out, having a grand old time. But my guess is maybe it's that simple. There's this human nature thing where if things are not clear, you surround yourself with community.
Yeah.
And because it's so simple, we grab more people, put them in the room. And the reality is like, that may or may not be needed.
At least for my part, I know there's times where the hierarchy, like the org design hierarchy, is different than the decision rights.
Yeah.
And there's times where I find myself in a meeting and realize we don't have the proper decision maker.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Right. And so in this exploration, it's one thing to say, hey, we randomly have 2 people that share a birthday. It only took 23 of us. It's very different to say, can we commit to a course of action that changes people's lives on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah.
And who's authorized to actually make that decision?
Yeah.
So it does feel like with all the screens going on and all the technology, we forget sometimes that ultimately, the impacts we're making can be really significant on that very element.
Well, and we get confused between what is crafting versus what is a community type effort.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I think I mentioned that these guys built a deck on my my backyard, and they had a plan, right? So they had a plan, and it was basically like this small team. Again, it was like three to five people just doing what they needed to do. They came in, they were fully autonomous, did their thing. If there was a question, the contractor would call me and I would answer, and we were off and rolling. But they knew what the end state was.
Did they ask the electrician how long the 2x8 should get cut down to, or did they ask him how much cement was required for a footing? Like, I kind of feel like what you're touching on with the deck, which is super simple, and probably these guys are executing without any confusion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no asking, right? So it's like, it's only if you run into a problem, right? And yet it's almost like we want to all bring the problems or something. I don't know. I don't know really what the right answer is, but I do think the point here is if you don't think about, sometimes I guess the point is sometimes if you have bad habits, they can lead to the unintended consequences of just bad process.
I'm also hearing too, though, from a process perspective, that there's a correlation between complexity and then the importance of clarity, perhaps.
Yeah.
It's not more complexity means more bodies. It's that more complexity means we need to be able to unpack it in such a way that we can get the clarity to take that.
Correct. And then what are your constraints, right? So like, I know, as I mentioned before, huge fan of Toyota.
Yeah.
One piece flow, like in many reasons, I love the way that they do their business. And they spend 3 months thinking and arguing and thinking some more and arguing and thinking some more and arguing.
Yeah.
And yet it's just part of their culture they've also kind of flipped the script as far as who's the most important. Like in their culture, the most important are the people that are actually doing the work.
I don't think that, I think that's very contrary to our Western capitalist minded hierarchical design.
Yep. Because it's very easy to be nebulous and then go and take credit when something emerges.
Oh my God. So true.
It's like my wife when she planted a garden. It's not like she goes out to the garden and say, look at those seeds that I made. You're like, no, the seeds just grew. Like, that's just what happens. But like, I do think that business can be that.
Yeah.
Business can be that way.
No, it's true. Chris, I think I love this. The birthday paradox. Interesting. Probably not the best way to try to solve complex problems.
No.
Maybe a very common way, but not necessarily the best way.
Yeah. Yeah. And this week, next week, just move intentionally.
Yeah.
And we'll catch everyone next week. Thanks, man.
Good stuff, buddy.
All right. See you.
See ya.